Well, good evening. My name is Andy Cripps, CEO of the Effingham County Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to the 2021 Rincon Mayoral Candidates Forum, presented by the Chamber and the Effingham Herald. In this forum, we'll hear from incumbent Mayor Ken Lee and challenger former City Councilman Kevin Exley. Election Day is November 2nd, with early voting beginning today. We're glad you can join us for what we hope will be an informative discussion. Before we begin, the Chamber of Commerce encourages you to vote yes on two questions on the county election ballot. One authorizes an extension of the current SPLOST. The other will authorize a tax exemption on e-commerce inventory, removing a competitive disadvantage for Effingham. You can find out more about these questions on our website at www.effinghamcounty.com. Vote yes. Now, I'd like to introduce the moderator for this evening's forum, Mark Lastinger.
Welcome to this forum, everybody. We hope that you find this very informative. I'm going to ask a series of questions that I hope will draw the best out of these guys and help you make a really informed decision. I know a lot of you only vote for president, but hey, the mayor is a vital job, and so we are counting on you to get out there and vote. Now, both candidates will get a chance to have an opening statement before we start with the questions, and Mr. Exley, he will go first.
All right, I'd like to start by saying thank you to Mr. Cripps along with the Effingham County Chamber of Commerce for arranging this forum, and to the Effingham Herald for allowing you, Mr. Lastinger, to take the time to put these questions together for the residents of Rincon. My name is Kevin Exley. I was born and raised in Effingham County, with 13 of those years being right here in Rincon. I have a lovely wife and 5 children ranging from 12 to 23. I have a refreshing new vision for Rincon with smart growth and a plan. As your mayor, we'll get back to how the charter reads to lead the city, and away from the backdoor calls and meetings that under our current mayor has caused some elected officials to feel helpless without a voice for the residents they were elected by. I will bring ideas to a new and improved, vibrant, diverse council if elected that wants positive change, to let them, after 16 years, make their own decisions for the city's growth. I will finally, as your mayor, build teamwork between our city and the county instead of a wall and silence. We have 2 commissioners responsible for districts which cover the footprint of our city. This means we should be reaching out to them and have a common goal to improve the city's place at the table with our county. Instead, our relationship is rocky. We sent a cease and desist letter to them to stop looping water pipes on their own property. If the relationship was there, we could have drove to Springfield for a meeting or picked up the phone. Instead, the residents paid for a waste of time letter that held no weight. Recently, I was told the annual evaluation from council of our city manager was to be turned into the mayor and city clerk pile a set of discussions. In any management position, why would a subordinate be given that type of task? It has no business of anyone except council to offer their input on the city manager for overall job performance. Just another example of the lack of knowledge when dealing with HR related items. Rincon residents need new vision and a fresh new idea for restaurants to fill the empty buildings around the city. Let's lead discussions for bowling alley, for family fun. Let's look at some of the property we own and see if we can team with local business and create a sports complex where all of our youth can play instead of where soccer and football is played in the outfield of our baseball fields. Traffic, annexation, recreation, sit-in restaurants, picket fences subdivision, Lost Plantation golf, and drainage are some of the issues I hope to discuss tonight. Remember, you must live something to change something.
Okay, Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you to the Chamber and to the Herald for sponsoring this forum tonight. Appreciate the opportunity to be able to share with the citizens of Rincon and those watching tonight. Thank you for watching tonight live, and for those of you who may watch this in the days to come, as I understand it to be on YouTube. So thank you for tuning in, so to speak. I want to thank the citizens of Rincon for allowing me the privilege and the opportunity of serving you the last 16 years. Thank you for that, and I'm appreciative of your trust in my leadership. I'd like, for those of you who may not know me, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. My wife, Georgia, and I, who we just celebrated our 50th wedding anniversary back in June, moved here to Effingham County in 1994. We instantly felt a connection to this community that we had never experienced before. Our oldest daughter was in college, and our youngest daughter completed her high school education at Effingham County High School before going on to college. Both daughters are married and have raised families of their own. Our oldest daughter, Alexis, is married to Brian McElrath, and they reside in Effingham County. They have two sons, Drew and Patrick, who are active in sports and church activities. Our youngest daughter, Heather, is married to Justin Bagby, and they live in Flowery Branch, Georgia. They have two sons, AJ and Lane, who love hunting as a family, and they are heavily into travel baseball. We are very proud of our girls, our families, and their families, and we thank you for them. We're thankful for them. My wife just continues to ask the question, how did we have two girls and we end up with four grandsons? And she doesn't know what to do with them. But after all these years, she's learned a little. But I'd like to just tell you a little bit more about myself as well, and some of the positions I've held, the services I've done over the years. When we moved here in '94, I immediately, as I said, felt the connection to this community, and I began to get involved like I had never been before. So I have served on numerous boards and committees, and I'd like to just share those with you so that you know a little bit about my background and what I've been able to do. But my service to the community began 11 years before I ever became mayor. So I kind of feel like I've got some experience under my belt in avenues that would provide knowledge that would be helpful to me in the position of mayor. I served on the Effingham Chamber of Commerce Board. I was the president of the chamber. I served on the Effingham Industrial Development Authority, where I served as vice chairman. Then there were a number of boards that I served on over the years. I served on the Savannah Technical College Board of Directors, the Effingham United Way Board, the Coastal Empire United Way Board, the Truman House Board, the Habitat for Humanity Board, and I was a member of the Effingham Rotary Club, where I served as Rotary President. I currently serve on the Effingham County Transportation Advisory Committee and the Effingham County Board of Health, and I serve on the Coastal Regional Commission, which is a 10-county entity that deals with issues involving our region, our entire area. On that commission, I serve as secretary of the council, and I am the chairman of the Budget and Finance Committee. Earlier this year, I was appointed by Governor Kemp to serve on the Coastal Regional Water Planning Council. So that is a new position that I've just recently assumed. Service, and these are, like I said, these are, I think, all helpful to providing me the opportunity to serve as mayor. My working career, I was with 46 years with the Kroger Company. I retired in 2014, and I spent 20 of those 46 years right here in Rincon, serving and interacting with people of Effingham County. I served 6 years in the Georgia Army National Guard, achieving the rank of Staff Sergeant. And I hope that this 27 years gives you a good understanding of my commitment of service to this community. As you can see, my service to the community began 11 years before I became mayor. These opportunities gave me a firsthand look at the needs of our community, and it helped me to make the connections with the people in this community that would help me to be able to rely on them for information that might help in resolving some of the issues that we've dealt with. In 2005, when I first ran for mayor, Rincon was locked in a battle over access to drinking water. And there were many parties involved in this issue, and we were under a consent order from the Georgia Environmental Protection Division. That restricted our access to water and restricted our growth opportunities. Our first priority as we came into office, myself and the council at that time, was to resolve that issue with the EPD and get out from under the consent order. Our council at that time worked hard at this for months. There were numerous meetings with EPD, others, and local officials that finally brought this to a conclusion and the removal of the consent order. This allowed our builders to develop and to resume their work and our city to flourish. Our growth has been tremendous since that time. Growth presents opportunities and challenges. My goal as mayor, along with our city council, is to manage these growth opportunities and to maintain our community feel and appeal that makes Rincon a great place to live.
Okay, we'll get into the questions now, and Mr. Lee, you go first here, and you sort of touched on some of this, but what is it that compelled you to seek the office initially and then to stay at it subsequently?
Well, I guess initially my love for the community. I grew up in Claxton, Georgia. That's where I'm originally from, my family, but I pretty much grew up in Savannah, and it's a completely different feel in Savannah than it is Effingham County. So when I came to Effingham County, I kind of felt like I had come home. That was a little closer to my roots of what Claxton would be. And so I just really fell in love with Effingham County and became active, as I said, in many organizations. I just had a desire to serve, and because it was recognized and appreciated here, probably more than it would be somewhere like Savannah. So I enjoyed my time there. And then, as far as running for mayor, at that particular time, as I said, we had those issues with the consent order with EPD, and there were a lot of folks that were struggling. I mean, it was hampering the developers and builders, and so there were a lot of restrictions on us. And so they just felt like we needed some change in leadership to help maybe have a different perspective on this thing and to try to be able to work our way through it. And we were able to do that. So the initial reason, I think, was to try to help get that resolved, and we were able to accomplish that in a short time.
Okay. And I guess obviously the issues have changed, and you still want to be involved in them as the years have gone by.
Oh, yes. Well, it's kind of like watching a child grow up. You've seen it grow quite a bit. And as I said, the growth is great, but it presents challenges, and it's always the things you have to kind of deal with and stay ahead of. So, and that's our aim as a council and mayor. I hope that we can do that.
Okay. Well, Mr. Exley, what ultimately led you to say, I've got to give this a shot to run for mayor?
I have spoke on it a while ago. I actually coach softball, travel softball. And I have one of my players lives in the Picket Fences neighborhood. So constantly taking her over there, talking to her. I started just kind of going back and looking at the things that the city had promised this neighborhood, the things that we were supposed to do years ago. I went back and looked at it, and basically said that anything over 75 lots there needed to have a second entrance. That was in 2019. That location right now has 200 lots, 200 plus lots there. So, my heart goes out to the neighborhood and of course to those people that live in there because of what they face. That neighborhood faces, during a hazmat derailment that blocks that location, that could possibly be 500 lives. But we look at it like last night, we approved, $500,000 on our 4th Street extension project. We got $750,000 put aside for picket fences. In 2019, that was the number one goal, was to take care of that second entrance for picket fences. 2020, it also became a highlight. Again, it was put in the newspaper that sidewalks and picket fences would be the goal of the city to make sure that we, follow through with our plan. I know here lately that, there's probably been some old plans pulled. But I'll say this, 16 years, this bottle's been kicked down the road. They must have another way out. And talking to those people and walking through that neighborhood over the past month, they're not necessarily in favor of a secondary entrance because they're worried about traffic flow. So talking to residents and getting out and seeing those people is kind of made me really push for this position because I see what people struggle with. And I didn't see that until now, until I started walking around. The drive for me to become mayor, started when I was in the military in 1987. I was elected a squad leader in basic training. And from that point forward, I've been in leadership roles all the way up. 27 years in the waste industry, I've been a leader. And so, my instincts has me to, when I see something that's not right, do something about it. Don't talk about it. Don't complain about it. Don't kick it down the road, but do something about it. So, when I look at this, again, I look at, we talked about last night in the meeting, the 4th Street extension. We could continue to drive down 4th Street. Nobody's going to have an accident by hitting a pothole. But if a train derails, or if a train stops in front of that place and a kid gets bit by a snake or someone has a heart attack, they're not getting out of the picket fences unless they come through the woods. So to me, that should be the most important thing that we have on the table right now. So I think setting priority to things is another key.
Okay. Now, the role of mayor differs greatly from town to town. In some towns, the mayor has a lot of power, almost like a president, and in other towns, they may just cast a tie-breaking vote. So here in Rincon, how do you envision the mayor's job, his role and responsibilities?
Like I said in my opening statements, the mayor's job, and I hate to put it this way, but to me, it's a leadership role without power. The power is through council. Our charter reads that. I have been a part of multiple things that has happened in this city whenever I was on council that I knew that was not driven by council because I was on council. And I think that what happens is through time, you tend to, as council members fall out and new council members come in, you develop your personal team. And I just believe that the mayor's role is to go out into the community, speak with the community, get all the information they can, be on these boards, this advisory board. I heard the mayor speak on the advisory board. When we talk about records, I know, these guys brought up my record on council. Unfortunately, I have a job. I'm not retired. So your employment sometimes takes you outside of the county, outside the state to be able to manage. But what I will say is our record on the advisory board is about 3 times in really 2 years. And those were items that, those were times where things only affected the city of Rincon. So, my idea of this position truly is to go to those boards, talk to the residents, bring that information back to council, and continue to put something on the agenda. Have a 30, 60, 90-day plan. Don't let things fall off. Don't let things fall off and forget about it like picket fences. Don't let that happen. Keep it on the agenda, keep it going, keep council talking about it until that problem is solved. Or until we can go out and give those residents the plan. So that's kind of what my idea of, of a weak mayor, strong council is.
Okay, Mr. Lee.
Yes, Rincon is a weak mayor, strong council government. Always has been. The mayor, as you indicated, Mark, in a lot of cities does not even have an opportunity to vote. except in case of a tie, and that is our charter in the city of Rincon. I see my position as one who listens and hears the council members, their opinions, and what way things may be going, in what direction it may be going, whether there's agreement, disagreement. And my position, I think, is to try to bring people to agreement. Every council member has that same opportunity. That's not exclusive to the mayor. Every council member, if they have an item that is important to them and they want to bring some focus to, then they lobby their fellow council members. They generate support and they can get things done. I don't put people on council. People are elected by the citizens. And the citizens that are the council members that are serving, I'm glad to serve with them. And I feel like that my position is to try to bring agreement, to be able to get things done and to bring folks together.
Okay. I'd like to speak on that if I could.
Okay.
One of the things that the mayor brought up is making people, being a team, okay? Bringing people together, not bringing people on the council. We have a council member, which is Councilman Reese Brower, that during Miss Daniels' end of her term, Mr. Brower felt the need through the budget season to have a conversation, not ask for a vote, but have a conversation about bringing back a past council member, okay? Someone that has 20 plus years of experience that can help us get through the budget system, all right? So when he brought that conversation up, he had not even had a conversation with the person that he was wanting to appoint. He had not even had a conversation with him. He just thought, you know what, this is an excellent opportunity. We're in the budget season. He knows all about the city. Maybe he can come step in for 6 months and then not even run and walk away. Mr. Brower brought that back to the council. And when he brought that back to the council, no one even gave him a second. No one even gave him a second to even give his reason why. So if we talk about, nobody said a word. So if we talk about, teamwork and bringing someone together, you got to bring those people that don't have the vote as well. You got to get their opinion. You got to listen to those guys. 20 plus years deserved an opinion. It deserved him to give his opinion. 100%, Mr. Blackwell, if you go back and look at the stair-step process that we've used in this city, it starts with the planning board, and then they move to coming to meetings, taking notes, and then they move to a council position. And every time you see one of those people, you see their sign sitting next to the mayor's and Levi Scott. It's there every time. And then those people get elected. And so that's been the current stair step of the way things are work until, Mr. Blackwell was put on. But we took a guy who was on plan and zone, had no idea of the budgetary process for the city, and we chose not to give one of our 20 plus year guys a voice. And that's what concerns me.
All right.
I would like to respond to that.
Sir.
Again, I go back to the process and how you get things done and get agreement. My opponent here is mentioning a situation where we had to appoint a council member to fill out the remainder of a term. And we were preparing to do that. I had what I thought was a good candidate, Mr. Blackwell, and I still contend that he is. He has served us well on the Planning and Zoning Board for over 4 years. Very capable, very intelligent. He's a military officer, a major in the U.S. Army. He's an engineer, chemical engineer at Gulfstream. and he is very qualified in regards to budget processes and so forth. I was not aware of any other candidates. It was not made known to me by Mr. Brower or anybody else of a candidate. And so I went to council members, lobbied them. I said, I've got a candidate. Can you support it? Mr. Brower could have done the same thing. He had the same opportunity. And so, if Mr. Brower's nomination didn't get a second, then apparently nobody on council felt like it was a good reason. I feel like we had some good reasons not to do that. And I will just say that this council member that we are talking about, previous council member, was not reelected in the first week in November, and he chose not to come back to a meeting for the last 2 months of his term. He abandoned his position, and that was during the budget process. And furthermore, if we had appointed this gentleman, but yet the public did not reelect him, would we not be overriding the will of the people?
Okay. Well, I'm going to skip a question and come up. This kind of jives with something that there was going to be a couple of questions from now. Mr. Exley, when you announced your candidacy, you mentioned that you and candidate Damon Ron were very aligned on your platform. Correct. Could you elaborate on that?
Damon Ron and I don't know Damon, far back. I'm not, we met when I moved to the neighborhood. Ran into him a couple places. And it's kind of funny how I sit around and talk with him one night and I thought, man, this guy right here is a pretty educated guy, understands the needs of the city. So with that being said, I kind of took the things he said in, and of course my job as a manager is to hire other managers. I've hired plenty of managers in my life. And so when I seen him, I thought this would be a good candidate for something that we have within the city as a councilman. At that point, we were in a meeting. They stated that the IDA position was coming open, that it was open. And I'll never forget the night we were sitting at City Hall, and the mayor said, well, Patrick Kirkland comes to every meeting. He comes to every meeting and he's on the planning and zoning. Okay. So here goes that stair step again. So immediately I thought, man, should I say something? Should I keep my mouth shut? And I said, you know what? I'd like to appoint Damon Ron, not even knowing at the time that Damon would even take the position. So we almost appointed someone that after bringing Damon in, and also I pushed to do an interview process with those two guys, and not taking anything from Mr. Kirkland. Okay. But I said, hey, let's do an interview process. So we did that. We set it up for a workshop, brought the guys in. Even the people that wanted Mr. Kirkland in that position said unanimously that Damon Ron was more qualified for that role. So there was another opportunity that we had to not necessarily make a bad judgment call, but one that wasn't an educated judgment call. So that's where Damon and I started really talking when he got on the IDA. And, we never used him enough on the IDA. We never called him into a lot of meetings. He would pick up the phone, he would call, the city manager, he would call me and, tell me about things that were being said, things that was going on with OmniTrax, his defense of some of the city's issues through the IDA. And so when when this opportunity arose, I told Damon, I said, you know, this is an opportunity for you to get into the position that the city needs. And that's you on council, you know, making those good decisions and thinking through things and, you know, processes like he does. So that's how I connected with Damon.
Okay, so after this exchange here, it makes me wonder now, would it be incorrect or correct to say that Mr. Wendelken is also aligned with you and Mr. Ron?
Yeah, Mr. Wendelken, you know, was not going to run at all down to the last minute. I don't know how I would react. You know, the mayor said, well, he didn't show up for 2 months. After that, I don't know how you react whenever you've been a part of something for 20 plus years. Some people take losses harder than others. Okay. Some people don't get up the next day and feel the energy to continue that fight after a loss. Obviously that's not who I am. But what I will say is, you know, Mr. Wendelken, when this issue came up in council and he didn't get the second, you know, again, Mayor, it was 20 or 30 votes was the difference in that vote tab. So that represented 270, 280 people out of the 300 and something that everybody else had that wanted Mr. Wendelken in. I'm sure that he'll get those votes this time. But my alignment, and I will say this and go on record to say this, you know, when I went in as a council member, Paul Wendelken and I probably had more heated conversations than anybody. Down to the point there was one time where I told him, I said, Paul, I thought you was going to get up and hit me because, you know, he was hell bent on discussing with me, letting me know the issues of the past. And sometimes you can't change the present without that mixture. It's okay to have that mixture. Okay. But again, when I take that back to leadership and we talk about teamwork, it almost sounds like there's a grudge there against Mr. Wendelken. That's not the way that I would have handled that. I would have allowed Mr. Brower his time out of respect for his 20 plus years to at least have the conversation. You already knew he wasn't going to get the vote because everybody was going to follow what the mayor wanted to do, but he deserved the conversation. So that's in my opening statements that makes you feel a certain way whenever you don't have that conversation when you don't feel like you've got that vote and your residents don't feel like they have that vote because you didn't even get a conversation is a problem. That's not building a team. That's not teamwork.
All right.
Could I respond,
Yes, sir.
please, Mark? There were 2 conversations. Mr. Brower was able to lay out his thoughts on this candidate that he felt was qualified. He laid out all the reasons that he was for the budget and so forth and his experience. And nobody will discount his experience. He served on council for a long time, but he did have his chance to talk with other council members. And he did have a chance to persuade them and state his position, which he did. Now, to the issue with the appointment of Damon Ron to the IDA, I think what my opponent here has just described is exactly what I said about how the process works. I remember that meeting well. We were looking for a replacement for the IDA. And Patrick Kirkland, as he said, was one that was presented. And Mr. Exley presented Damon Ron, which, by the way, Mr. Kirkland was later elected to serve on the council. He is serving on the council now. Mr. Exley presented Mr. Ron, and there was conversation. And I think council agreed that it needed a little harder look. So we didn't make a decision that night. We agreed, as he said, to interview these 2 candidates. And so there's a perfect example of a council member who can sway the others. And so Damon Ron was appointed. And and he was a good appointment. He's been good serving for our city on the IDA.
Okay, well, now we'll get back to our regularly scheduled program. And Mr. Lee, it's your turn. And this kind of is sort of part of the question I just asked. You mentioned the team building concept. Well, what other qualities are just absolutely vital to be an effective mayor, and how have you displayed them in your professional life?
Well, I think when I first ran for mayor, I kind of agreed, and then I kind of backed up and said, "What am I doing? I don't know anything about being." And I don't like the term politician. I like to say an election official. But what I did find out is that when I got into the position, those 46 years that I spent with Kroger taught me the greatest skill that I could have, and that's people skills. How to reasonably work through issues, resolve issues, bring agreement. And so that I found out was, now you can learn about recreation, you can learn about the play, you can acquire all that knowledge in the job. And but people skills are not so easy to taught. They're over a long period of time. And so I found that the people skills is what helped me the most in my function as mayor. And I think it showed up really early in the process whenever we dealt with that EPD issue and the consent order. And so we did a lot of lobbying, we did a lot of negotiating, a lot of talking, and we finally got agreement, and we got something done.
Okay, Mr. Exley?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes.
I'm not sure I don't get off.
We kind of been focusing on teamwork, and you can mention that again, but what other qualities can you think of that might be vital to being an effective mayor, and how have you displayed them in your professional life?
One of the things that I would, there's two things that I would like to say about that. One of the things is just like the mayor said, it deals with people skills, it deals with management, it deals with having the tough questions, having those tough conversations with people, which I've done through years of management, and not just understanding, not just thinking that, okay, once I get to this level, I'm above everybody, but remembering that there are functional experts. A good manager is not a manager that knows everything. A good manager is a resourceful manager. He knows somebody that knows it. So with that being said, one of the things that I would like to say, one of the things that I would like to bring up, which I feel is a huge issue with quality. And so, we were hiring a police chief, okay, in the city. And we had the vacant spot. We were sitting on council that night, and I remember saying, look, I hire a lot of people, but I don't think that I'm ready to hire a police chief off of my knowledge. I don't know that anybody else, if somebody would have stepped up and said, hey, I hire police chiefs every day, I'll hire one, I would have felt fine with that. But everybody agreed that wasn't the right way to go about it. That, okay, let's take a step back. Let's think about this. So I said, why don't we have a review panel? Why don't we put a review panel together of police officers that will review our candidates that we pick? So again, it's the quality. It's the listening part. We went in, we got Sheriff Jimmy McDuffie, we got Mr. Bill Hitchens, and we got Mr. Mark Revenue. So in my mind, when we went through and looked at just the qualifications, and we had our pick off of qualifications, we sent those guys through the review board. I felt for sure that we would hire, that they would pick the correct person, because those guys were functional experts. We were not. We turned around after their review and did not pick the person that they picked. I was called by the city manager and told me that the mayor had looked at another resume that he felt like that this guy would be more compatible with the city. And I said, are you kidding me? So, but I backed up and I thought, okay, well, that's fine. We'll send him through the review board. Never sent him through the review board. Never contacted these guys back and said that we wasn't going to choose the guy that they took the time to sit down and choose. These people have jobs here. These people do things, every day. But we didn't choose that person. We chose a person. And I made a mistake as a young manager, as a young councilman, not to show up at that meeting, just to show my discontent with that hire. I didn't show up at that meeting. I didn't want to vote on it. Okay. It was unanimous. It was unanimous by the people that were there. But I should have voiced my opinion at that point. But I learned from that. I learned that my vote is the voice of the 350 people that voted for me. And I should have came there and said, no, I don't agree with this gentleman. But that's where the quality comes from. That's where, to me, you have to trust in functional experts. You can't just make decisions because you feel like, well, we've hired those guys before. We went on the right path and then fell off of that path. Now that guy's costing the city money. And then the guy that left is going to cost us more money. So those are things that happen, bad decisions, because we didn't trust the functional experts that we picked.
As to that matter, yes, we had a panel. We had some candidates. It was not as described by my opponent that I picked this, but we had a candidate that come in late after the panel process. Our city manager had that candidate resume and application. It didn't come to me, and it was presented. I looked it over and had the council have an opportunity to look it over. Council deemed that it was not necessary to bring the panel back together. They moved forward with the process. It was voted on that night, and as Mr. Exley has said, and I don't quite understand his thinking, if his revolt was to not show up, then that doesn't seem to be a very good response to me. If I'm a responsible council member and I have a different opinion, then I'm going to be there and I'm going to voice that opinion, and it's going to be a matter of the record. And he could have been there to vote no, but the council members that were there unanimously approved to hire this individual.
So, and I'm going to add to that. You're right. It was a mistake, Mayor. It was a mistake not to show up there. But you've also got to take a little bit on that for not running that person back through a review panel of functional experts. You took that upon yourself. You took it upon yourself to bring that to council, put it on the agenda and say, we're going to pick a guy that these three professionals, and then we did not even go back and have a conversation with them. One of those gentlemen told me the other day that he did not even know until the day of the swearing in who the gentleman was. He thought that the gentleman that they picked was still that guy. So we never even gave them the respect to reach out to him and talk to him.
The response and reply to candidates is the job of the city manager. It's not the mayor's. I didn't pick this man. He was presented to the council, and I did not deem that it was not necessary to send him to the panel. The council deemed it was not necessary.
But you picked Ben Blackwell and you picked Patrick Kirkland.
No. I solicit good candidates. I solicit good candidates for positions, whether they be planning and zoning. We do the same thing. Council members, I solicit what I believe are good, strong candidates.
Okay, we're going to move on now to the next question, and these are going to be some probably really broad topics that you can talk about probably for a while, but if you will, probably try to condense it down because we still got quite a few to go. But Mr. Exley, you're up first for this one. I'm asking, what do you perceive to be the city's biggest challenge, which, I mean, everybody knows is growth, but what are your recommendations to deal with it?
Well, Mark, you're right. It is growth. And with growth comes traffic. So what I want to do is I want to go through this. I want to read through this because traffic is such an important item here that we need to discuss it. And I want to make sure that I'm thorough with this. we should be reaching out to our neighboring communities as to what our traffic plan and flow should look like. If we have not started these conversations, we're way behind. I recently spoke to the mayor of Port Wentworth and asked if he had any communication with Rincon, and he stated that I was the first to enter into discussions about traffic flow with him. That's our gateway. If they don't go, we don't go. If they stay 4 lanes and we go 6, what good is it? We're still going to bottleneck. So as a member of many boards, our mayor's job as a leader of our communities to take these solutions and plans to the Effingham County Transportation Advisory Board. Our county partners and neighboring communities for conversation. As we speak on records, we talked about this a while ago, 2 or 3 times in 2 years that we went there. This is the single most important thing for Rincon residents to sit in traffic every day. Highway 21 is owned by the state, but we have a duty to assist with a restructuring plan. We have over 7,000 acres of zoned industrial property within 5 miles of City Hall. Okay. What's Rincon going to look like in 3 years? What's it going to look like in 10 years? The Effingham Parkway, it's a $43 million deal, but the Effingham Parkway will not alleviate all the traffic from the city or the county to parts of Savannah, Gulfstream, the ports, South Carolina. With all due respect, you don't bottleneck from your house to the golf course or your house to City Hall. We don't bottleneck there. So, I feel like you got to sit in it daily, like our community does, like my family does every day to get to town, like my wife does. As your mayor, there are things I can put in front of the advisory board in the first 30 days to relieve congestion. I will suggest a truck route for semi-trucks over 3 axles around the city on Old Augusta. If a delivery is not being made within the city limits or you do not reside in the city, you would need to take the alternate route. I've been in trucking all my life and will not do anything to create a burdensome situation for them. But it does slow the flow of traffic down, and it's not efficient for the semis to go from traffic light to traffic light. It slows them down as well. I know that I'm going to be met with, you can't create an ordinance to route traffic. My response is this: we cannot sit back and continue down the same road neither, and doing nothing is not an option. With the current industrial zone property off of Old Augusta, Rincon should be leading in the efforts to create more lanes, as the lack of infrastructure will hinder our residents. These are all state and county roads, but if we do nothing or say nothing, then our city will suffer. We have Miss Ann Purcell that sits on that board. She's there. We need to be leading those conversations because it will affect the residents of Rincon. More lanes added, starting around Goshen Road all the way through Interstate 95 would be a good start. The current mayor may think this is not in the city limits, so why should we be concerned? Not correct. Our city residents must travel this every day. So why not lead in that conversation and be proactive with county government and GDOT? We have to have those conversations. And I believe showing up at those advisory meetings only when it fits the Rincon narrative is not what we should be doing. I got on the phone with a member of one of our state representatives the other day, and I spoke with him about what we need to do. And he said, well, it's the way that we move. He said, everybody's standing on the table trying to get things pushed. And I think that Rincon needs to lead in that discussion. I think Rincon needs to know, because if these places develop before we build the infrastructure, we will have traffic backed up to Fort Howard Road. And there's no doubt about that. It's going to happen.
Yes, agreed. The traffic issue is probably one of the biggest things that we have to deal with, not only as a city, but the county as well. And it's the kind of thing that, it's real easy to talk about building a bypass, but let's look at how long it has taken us to get the Effingham Parkway. It's taken 20 years to get this money and to get it started. It takes a lot of money, and thankfully the state stepped up and provided a good number of revenue to fund that project. But to be able to deal with the whole, it's not a Rincon issue, it's a county issue, and can be even a regional issue. But it takes collaboration, it takes cooperation. You know, us fixing a Rincon problem doesn't necessarily fix the problem. It takes all of us to fix the problem. And yes, it is a problem that needs to be addressed and needs desperately to be worked on. You know, the one thing that we have talked about as a council, and we've got a lot of growth, not only residential growth that we've had for a number of years, but more and more industrial growth. And one of the things that, you know, we welcome growth, we welcome economic growth, we welcome job opportunities. That's what we love to see. But some of the positions, some of the things that are presenting themselves now are high traffic, low job producing positions. And we as a council have a fear that, and I'm not disparaging Garden City, but Garden City is a truck city. And all of these, as we all see, these warehouses are all coming our way, and they're in Effingham County now. And so, yes, it's the truck traffic is, if nothing else, is going to make it worse. So yes, we need solutions to all the traffic needs, but we need solutions to the truck need especially. And we need to manage that growth. Sometimes good growth, sometimes growth is not necessarily what you want or need. And so I think we have to measure what it presents and the opportunities it presents and kind of say, is it worth it, you know?
Yes, sir. Well, it sounds like you guys are definitely in agreement about the roads and transportation being number one, but I'm sure we probably got some things that are a close number two and a close number three. Mr. Lee, could you speak to some of those that you think really need to, are kind of urgent?
Well, I think probably for us, I mean, even though I referred earlier to the water issues that we had and resolved, that issue is still there. We are in what is called the red zone. We're in the aquifer zone with South Carolina, Hilton Head. So they are restricting severely the withdrawal from the aquifer. And so we, I think we're going to see our permits continue to decrease. We're going to have to continue to look for alternate water sources. We are going to have to, like many cities, and it's, the red zone covers a big area, including Savannah. So I think water is going to become much more restrictive and a big issue for the future as far as how we deal with that.
Okay.
You know, obviously I do agree with the water. You know, one of the things that I keep hearing from people is a plan that we spoke about a long time ago about taking water from the Savannah River and getting that water reclaimed and back to drinking water. Again, these are things that we can sit here and discuss, but if we know that we have been in that red zone for years, what are we doing about it? When are we going to make that decision? When are we going to put that on a calendar and say, we're not going to stop talking about this until something's done about it? Okay. We know that our citizens are going to be affected by that. So water is also one, you know, one of the things that I would like to bring up is local streets. You know, I've sit back and I've watched, you know, obviously pictures of the 4th Street extension that's being done now, different things posted on social media, all of a sudden that are being done. We should not be discussing city-owned street repairs during elections. That's something that we should be maintaining as part of leadership of our community. We didn't pay for it. They paid for it, okay, through T-Splosh. So it's not a wish list or a present when we go out and make a repair in the street. That's our job. That's what we're supposed to do. So I'm not sure if anyone drove the Lost Plantation entrance before the repair, but we stopped 30 feet away from potentially the worst pothole in the neighborhood. Covers the whole road. It was 30 feet away. Okay. So I'm not so sure whether that was, a vote repair, or really did we go out there and take the time to look at it and decide that's what we needed to do. We needed to fix the streets there. So as your mayor, I want to be proactive and ride the neighborhoods and view potential street needs and bring that back to council for resolution, instead of reacting when someone is upset over a busted tire or a bent rim. I think that council should go out and look at these neighborhoods. We shouldn't focus on the neighborhoods that just allow us for the most votes. We should focus on other neighborhoods. Like I said, walking in picket fences opened my eyes up. Those people have road problems. They have drainage problems, which is another huge issue that we listened to last night, about drainage. Last night's conversation blew my mind because basically what the people were saying is the people that were fighting the subdivision, the variance for the subdivision, basically said that they had a drainage problem before the neighborhood. So we need to go fix their drainage problem. The reason why people don't want our city to expand is because we have a drainage problem. We're putting in concrete. We're building behind picket fences. We're clearing property. We're raising the height of the dirt there, and water's running straight through their front yard and filling up in their road and then beating their roadways out. So, those are the things that I think that we have to focus on other neighborhoods as well. But that local streets and drainage and obviously traffic is huge for me.
Okay.
May I respond?
Yes, sir.
As to the issue that my opponent is referring to on last night's council meeting, yes, there is definitely a problem in that area. We recognize that from hearing the citizens. Now, if it's something that should have been addressed already, maybe that should be the case. But we did not allow this development to proceed. We requested further drainage studies and the engineers to bring back more information, so that we did have a good understanding about what might need to be done for that. So yes, that is a concern. The drainage, we've got the stormwater drainage plan in place now, and hopefully that'll be some help to us in being able to get a proper drainage system throughout the city. You can't do it all at one time. It's got to be done in pieces. And as to the roads, road repairs are going to be necessary all the time. It's just a constant cycle of a road needing to be repaired or resurfaced or replaced. And within the financial restraints that we have, we tried to do as best we could. And I say that in that we have had each year, we have a project identified to resurface the street. And that we get a LMIG grant, which is a local maintenance improvement grant from the state. And we match that to take on these projects. So our staff identifies what they believe are the most particular needs. Council has input. And so for the year 2017 to 2018, with the LMIG money, we resurfaced. That was a two-phase project, so it took 2 years. We resurfaced Carolina Avenue. 2019 and 2020, a two-phase project again, 2 years, Lexington Avenue. And then this year, the project that Mr. Exley is referring to that we just did, Lochner Drive at Lost Plantation, that was a LMIG project. Now, as to the others that we're doing, that we're seeing going on right now, it didn't just pop up because it's an election time. The people of this county, thankfully, voted to approve a T-SPLOST back in the summer. So we've got funds available to us now to be able to do these projects that we didn't have before. If we didn't have this T-SPLOST money, and I thank the citizens again for approving this, if we did not have that T-SPLOST money, the only way we could get it done would be to pull from the general fund of our city. And so we've got projects going on right now that will be completed at the end of this year. Georgia Avenue has already been resurfaced. Savannah Avenue has been resurfaced. 4th Street is in the process, and I know it's ugly, it's inconvenient for a lot of folks, and I apologize for that, but I don't know how they can do much better with the work they have to do. And then Weisenbaker Road is in progress right now, and Middle Ground Road. So those are all the projects that will be completed by the end of the year. It's funded by T-Splost. And so we have a revenue source now that we can do these things that we did not have before.
So Mark, I would like to respond to that. So in 2020, we approved the T-Splost funding for picket fences. So again, it was $750,000 was put aside for picket fences, and we have still not touched it. Is picket fences not as important as 4th Street? Why would we have not done something to help these residents out? And I keep going back to that because it's hazardous. It's not something that we should take lightly. When they did the railroad repairs, they had to work out times whenever they could go to work. They had to have their kids get on a van and drive them out of there. That's what I'm talking about. So we go out and we hit these areas and we're putting lipstick on a pig. And at the end of the day, we have a community here that people could lose their lives. And it's not first on the list. Now, in 2020, it was in the newspaper as being first on the list. But why do we just sign off on $500,000 on 4th Street through T-Splost when those people right there are in a hazardous situation? And we need $750,000 of that T-Splost money. We should have started right there. When we go to drainage, one of our drainage issues, this is another leadership problem for me. It's an accountability problem. We have a street sweeper. We own a street sweeper that we spent $75,000, $80,000 on. No one has forced that department to put someone in that street sweeper and hold them accountable for having that person. We've not done that. That's part of your drainage issues. That's part of that problem. Running that street sweeper. The city had to have that street sweeper. They had to have it in public works. But then we turn around and got it, and it's not being used. So that becomes a huge problem for me when we start talking about drainage and we start talking about the things that we need to do. Last thing I'm going to say about drainage, we should hold our public works manager accountable for every 90 days, every 6 months, making sure that ditches are cleaned out. I went over just driving through the city. We did a lot of work on the street that Mr. Scott lives on the side street that Mr. Scott lives on. The culverts are halfway full right now with dirt and grass. So what is the use to spend that money if we're not going to go back out and maintain those properties? If we're not going to go dig and clean ditches out, we don't know what our drainage issue truly is because we don't manage the things that we see that we can manage. So that's where I am on the drainage.
Okay. All right, this next question came to mind this afternoon, and it sounds kind of a fantasy question, but then I got to thinking about the way they do things in Washington. Maybe it's not the way they spend money. And the question is, if the City of Rincon got a $2 million federal grant with 0 strings attached, and you could use that $2 million to do anything in the City of Rincon, what would you do with it? Mr. Lee, you're up first.
I don't know. My wife could probably answer that question and what she can do with $2 million. But boy, that would take some thought. I mean, I don't know that. I mean, I guess the first thing that comes to mind is as we're talking about roads, and that again, that's not necessarily just a Rincon thing. So $2 million would go a long way towards fixing that problem.
I almost said 1 million, but I didn't think it was enough money.
Yeah, but no, I mean, right. If somebody just handed over $2 million to us, probably roads would be something that would be high on the list if it wasn't the first. The water we talked about and that kind of thing. So there's plenty of ways we can find to spend it. Yes.
Okay. Again, I would take it out to picket fences, and I would put them in an emergency entrance exit that is controlled by the city. And that's where I wanted to go with that. Those residents, I walked through that. I walked through the backside of Dasher Creek down into the woods a few weeks ago. There is a way to come out on the other side. There is a way to attach over by Sherwood Drive. Okay. There is a way to put culverts or something across there so that we can put something in to be able to put a gate there, just an emergency gate. That's all we're asking for. Those people don't want a rear entrance into there. They want an emergency gate, something that the city can control, something that in the event of an accident, we can unlock it and they can get in and out. That's what they're asking for. So I would probably spend some money on that. And then I would go over to one of the only amenities that we have, and that is Lost Plantation Golf Course. And, you know, one of the things that I want to say about that is, you know, it has been mismanaged in the past. It is managed properly now. It has a good team in place there. The course has seen many changes over the last couple of years, showing really good returns. Because again, we only look at what the dollar amount is. We're not looking at, we never put a value on the water that we're reclaiming there. So if we put a half a cent or a penny value to that, Lost Plantation Golf Course would be in the green all the time. Okay, because that is the reason why we purchased the course, to get rid of the water. You know, just going through there, I went over there the other day. They have a golf association now with probably some of the best people I've ever met, some of the best people I've ever been around. But let's remove, you know, let's remove the micromanaging stronghold on that. Let's let those managers, those robust guys get out and let's get that grill functioning properly. Let's remodel that place. When we decided to remodel that place the last time, the most frustrating thing with me, and I think my only time that I really had, Mr. Clem and I had a disagreement, was we had done all this work inside the clubhouse and all we needed to do was put ceiling tiles in, a box of ceiling tiles. And we decided to paint the ceiling tiles. So again, that was a very frustrating time for me. You know, let's give our residents, let's give those guys a place to be proud of. Let's get that pavilion built out there. Get an area to host weddings, parties, golf events. Let's use the tenure of that course to support our youth. Let's get our youth out there. Then let's take and reclaim the water. I would take some of that money that was left over, and I would figure out how to reclaim that water, pipe that water into the backyards. Just start off with a pilot hole. Just take one hole that the water's closest to the edge of the cart path and run a pipe with a valve there and allow our citizens to tap into that at their expense and then charge them an annual seasonal fee to use that reclaimed water in their yard. We could get off the Wednesday, Thursday, Tuesday time whenever we use the water. We would keep the drinking water out of the ground. We would stop these high summer bills, and the yards would look great. And start with one whole pilot program, because I don't think the cost is that much to do that. I really don't. I have thought about that plan, and I hear people talk about during the summer how the water bills run up. This would solve that issue for people that really care about taking care of their yards.
Okay. Well, we've got quite a few issues that we didn't get to, and so if you wanted to address some of these in your closing statements, that'd be outstanding. We did get the Lost Plantation. We haven't talked about public safety much, so maybe if somebody's got something to say about that, please feel free. Maybe the city's financial footing, we never got into that, but we are going to go into the closing statements now, and Mr. Mayor, you're up first.
Okay, thank you, Mark. I hope this time tonight has given you some good information that will help you in your decision as you vote the Mayor of Rincon on November the 2nd. I am proud to stand along with the council members I have served with on our council for the last 16 years, our record. I hope that I've been able to show my desire and commitment to my service of the citizens of Rincon over the last 16 years. I would like to take a moment and share with you what I believe are some of the accomplishments that we have. In regards to water and sewer, I believe that resolving that water issue initially when we came on was a big thing, and that helped us to be able to move forward. We activated a new lower Florida well, which helps with our withdrawal permit. That was something that we had started many years ago, doing a lower Florida well. Finally got it approved, got it in place, and it's functioning. So that will help us in regards to our water permitting in the days ahead. As my opponent mentioned, we purchased Lost Plantation Golf Course about years ago. And we did that kind of at the urging of EPD because they were telling us, along with many other places, you need to start looking for some sources, some ways to deal with your wastewater rather than discharging it into the creeks and the water. So that was at their urging. We kind of said, well, we can get out ahead of the plan. And we don't just have a spray field. We've got something that is an asset to the citizens. And I completely agree with Mr. Exley in regards to the value of that reused water. I've been on that for ever since we've had the golf course, that there is a value to it, but we've had council that over the years has not been so inclined to do so. It may be time to revisit that because there is definitely, and that is something that would help the financial position of the golf course, which we desperately need. It's, but the golf course is, well, I'll talk about that in a minute. Let me just stay on track here with water and sewer. The projects we have ongoing water line and sewer line replacements going on now, particularly in the older parts of the city, 7th Street, 9th Street. We're replacing, as we're doing that paving work on Middle Ground Road, we're replacing water lines all the way down there. We're putting in 6-inch lines in there now. It'll be all new lines. So we've got a lot of that in the city. Our city is old and some of the lines are dilapidated and in bad shape. So we're doing a lot of water line replacement. And then the other thing is we are, as our city has grown, our wastewater facility has been stretched and it's getting close to, normally what they'll tell you is once you're reaching 80% capacity, then you need to start your next upgrade. So we've had, our plant has a 1 million gallon per day capacity, and we are in the process right now of taking that to 2 million. So hopefully that'll take us through the next few years with the growth that we're experiencing. Talking about our fire department, we've expanded our fire department with purchases and construction of a station on Blue Jay Road. That was done, I think, with one of our previous city managers, where he saw an opportunity. There was a building, our fire chief actually kind of recognized it, a building that could be suitable for a fire department. And there was a lot of property around it. Those of you who may remember around Blue Jay Road. And so they saw an opportunity where we could go and purchase that, all that property with the building that we need. And then we sold the property around it. So we ended up being able to have a piece of property and a fire station for about $80,000 after all of that was said and done. So that was a good move, and that helped us in regards to our service in our fire department. We have transitioned over the last few years from a all volunteer fire department to a part volunteer, part paid, full paid staff fire department. We've improved our fire equipment, updated and replaced. And in doing all of these things, we improved our ISO rating, which is an insurance rating that insurance companies use to determine premiums for homeowners in regards to their insurance. So our homeowners in the city of Rincon and the service area where we service should have seen a improvement in their premiums in regards to those improvements. Recreation, we purchased the Lion Club's building over at Cumber Park. We renovated it and made it into a multi-purpose facility that is used a lot. We expanded Macumber Park. The ball fields, we added 4 new ball fields to Macumber Park, along with concessions, bathrooms, and additional parking on the back of the property, which was desperately needed. And that section is being utilized regularly. We expanded our recreation operation with the addition of basketball, football programs to our recreation department. We have completed the construction of 2 parks. Patriots Park, which is over by YMCA, which has tennis courts and soccer field, and then Giles Park on 7th Street, which is now in the process. We're putting a football field on that park. So they've got the design and they're presenting that to be done soon. We purchased 17 acres in what we call Freedom Park, and that's over by Lowe's. And that has been a good purchase for the city. We've had a great opportunity several years ago to be able to do that, and it's an event venue that is used by many people. It has been, I think, recognized as a great thing for the city. We just don't have many places like that. So that was a good purchase. And along with that, on that property that we bought, we were able to buy a building. If you see it off to the side, back in the back, that's now our public works building, which they desperately needed, a new public works building. So along with the property that we got to be able to have the events there, such as Freedom Rings and all the others, we also got a new public works building. Our police department, as the city has grown, we've increased our staff and for the additional population and traffic control. And then we have provided our police department. We appreciate those guys and gals greatly, and we want to provide them with the best equipment to be able to do their job safely, whether it be cameras on the cars or body cameras or whatever it may be. And I think our council over the years has done a good job of recognizing that. The roads, we've talked about the roads, and I would just say that these things that we've talked about that we have done and are doing have been able to be done without any city property tax. And my hope is that we'll be able to continue on that road. I believe I have shown tonight my commitment and dedication to this community and city for the last 27 years. I would ask that you consider as well my opponent's track record. He was elected to a 4-year term. During his 2 years of service, 2018 and 2019. He missed 38% of the regular scheduled meetings and special call meetings. The year 2019, he served as mayor pro tem, which means he would conduct council meetings in the absence of the mayor. He missed 44% of the meetings. I know that he has a job responsibility, but did he know that he had that commitment when he took office and what it would require? Also, there were other council members who had job responsibilities as well, but none of them missed the number of meetings that my opponent missed. This, to me, would call into question his availability and commitment. During this 2-year period, I missed 2 meetings when I was out of the country. I would also like to respond to some comments he made in regards to the hiring of a police chief, which we've already covered. He was not there for that vote. My opponent, while being critical of a unanimous decision by council, he was absent from the meeting, so was not there to voice his opposition or record a no vote. As to the hiring of our current city manager, who he said he approved of in the hiring process, which he has turned out to be a very good city manager. He approves of the hiring process. Again, he was absent from the meeting on July the 2nd, 2018, when we officially voted to hire Mr. Clem. And I don't know what reason he may have for that, because he was apparently in agreement, but he wasn't there for that important meeting. One other thing that I would like for the voters to consider is the circumstances surrounding my opponent's resignation from council. 2019, the city was in the process of bidding out our waste contract. During this process, our city attorney advised council of a potential conflict of interest with the bidding of the contract of my opponent's employer and his position as city council member. Our attorney suggested that we reach out to another law firm for an independent opinion, and council agreed. Our city attorney then contacted the law firm of Oliver Maynard for an opinion on this matter. The opinion rendered on January 20th, 2020, agreed with our city attorney that there was a conflict of interest. This opinion was made available to my opponent for his review and to make a decision on his position on council for the waste contract from his company. On February the 20th, my opponent contacted the firm of Oliver Maynard to ask them to reconsider their opinion because he wanted to remain on council. They reviewed the opinion and stood by their opinion. Then 4 days later, on February the 24th, my opponent submitted a letter of resignation from council stating that he was relocating because of his job. That relocation did not happen. I will let you, the voters, draw your conclusions about this matter. I appreciate you entrusting me with the position as your mayor for the last 16 years. I would like to be able to serve you for another 4 years, and I would ask for your vote on November the 2nd to allow me to continue to serve you. Thank you.
So what I'd like to start with is, I just want to get through recreation. Just want to start with that because I never made it to that. Recreation is something that really hits home with me in many ways. As I travel all over the Southeast coaching, watching baseball, I see the opportunities that each city has that we go in that host these events. As a resident, Mayor, I just assisted bringing a 100+ team perfect game event to Rincon in June as a resident. As your mayor, I would like to give you a plan and not just show up at a recreation department during a tournament for a photo opportunity. I have been coaching for 20 years with the last 12 years in Rincon, in the Rincon area, and our mayor has only showed up for one season that was on his bucket list. Pictures were posted by a campaign manager as they were in awe of the amount of people at Macomber. This is a weekend reality during most summer weekends that I attend there. My plan is to have a meeting with the top national associations in the Southeast to bring them to Rincon and let them tell us and our recreation director what we must do to attract national events. The Morgan Complex is a very nice complex, but it's not specific enough to host events at certain age groups. So invest in our youth. Again, our football and soccer is being played for the past 5 years in the outfield of our baseball fields. So another perfect example of how much, Mayor, you care about recreation. You talked about Patriot Park, and we said Patriot Park's out beside the tennis courts here. We still have a Porta-John restroom there. This has been in place for 8 to 10 years now, a Porta-John restaurant that we have at one of our recreation facilities. We've probably spent more on paying for this Porta-John than we could have created a handicap accessible restroom over there for our residents. How much have we spent? Probably enough to build something. This is what I mean about living something to change something. If our current mayor had to use it on the weekends, he would push to get better facilities. Giles Park needs some repair and improvements. We only talk about Giles Park when it's election time. Giles Park is an asset to us. We should host 3-on-3 basketball tournaments on those courts. We should make those T-ball, those are T-ball fields and coach pitch fields. Again, it's about the new vision. What I'm going to touch on really quick is our property tax. Property tax is a touchy subject for me, as I've heard our mayor say in Atlanta that he's in favor of the property tax here, almost to the point of pushing. We have a lot of elderly citizens that are paying county school taxes, fire fees, and everything else can be pushed on our community. All these things are necessary to have revenue and manage our city. But once put in place, it will never be removed again. I would like to work with our District 161 state representative to look at every option before committing to a property tax. It's worth a shot to look at special tax districts. They have them in Pooler. So if you say that that's what we're starting to see here, then maybe we need to inquire into the special tax district, which may help fund some of the items that needs to keep us from adding more burdensome taxes, instead of every year voting to increase the fire fee and not calling that a tax. My reason for stepping down from council. So I knew that I would have to address this. And so my reason for stepping down after 2 years on council was brought on by the mayor's push to place me in a bad situation. My company at the time was bidding on a contract for the city when the mayor came to me and stated council had a problem, as they thought it might be a conflict of interest for me to hold my position while a member of my company completed a sealed bid. I was given an opinion that the city attorney received from another firm. I should have completed my own investigation into this, but my company had just announced plans to change our regions and possibly use me elsewhere, and that being Charlotte, which would have resulted in a move for me and my family. After stepping down, our region headquarters was moved to Jacksonville, so no chance of a relocate. My region is currently in Jacksonville. I immediately started asking questions about how this transpired, having most of council members state that if I recused myself as I did, there was no personal gain. I should have stayed on board. They also stated at no time did they recommend me stepping down from council, as the mayor told me on multiple calls that they did. The mayor contacted me in Florida at a manager's meeting in February and spoke with me over 2 hours on the phone while I rode around Jacksonville telling me how he regretted seeing me leave, but it was time for me to leave, almost like he was easing me out. Some of the items currently going on. So what I did was I went to a manager's meeting. I ran into our Fanning Springs mayor on a chance. Our Fanning Springs mayor told me, he said, I said, do you have a garbage contract in your city? And he said, absolutely. He said, we also pick up a lot of front load cans and stuff like that for the city. And he said, but I recused myself and I step away, as I did for everything. So he told me that, and it gave me a new sense of, you know what? I should have stayed there. I should have done that. None of these things were brought up at the time of me leaving. It wasn't brought up that when waste management was still in place and you guys were looking to put them out in my first year, I had a letter from Mr. Clem stating that he really appreciated how much money I had saved the residents of Rincon because I negotiated the contract. So Mayor, when you start talking about conflicts of interest, you sit in so many conflicts right now with the city that it's ridiculous. We had a city manager that negotiated our service delivery area in business with the chairman and the county commission, that they negotiate our stuff. So how is that and other things not a conflict of interest that we do here? I'm sure at some point you purchased something from Kroger. I'm sure at some point you had an opportunity to help Kroger get in the door here and get that fine establishment. So that was a conflict of interest, but it only is a conflict of interest when it fits your narrative. So my closing statements. For those who took the time to attend tonight on the Chamber Facebook page, thank you. I hope through all of this, I shed some light on the things we need to change, that we need a change of leadership to accomplish. A new vision and new leadership is what our city needs. I hope we can make this change so all neighborhoods have a voice. Hold me accountable for the things I promised. I appreciate the time served by our mayor, but after 16 years, it's time to move on and allow for someone else to offer new plans. If traffic, investing in our youth, the golf course, annexation is important, please look at my platform. I will not sit here and tell you that employment will not ever remove me from a meeting, but lessons learned will make me a better leader for Rincon. As your new mayor, I will ask council to give you a 30-60 day plan on each item covered on the platform I am running on, as well as those running for council, so that we can check the box as each promise is met. Let's run this city as a business so that we see a return on our investment. Remember, we cannot afford to let businesses surpass our infrastructure. If we do nothing, we could be seeing traffic backed up to Fort Howard Road sooner than later. Finally, thank you to the people that opened the doors when I have knocked and took the time to discuss Rincon's issues. Even without the win on November 2nd, I'm a better person and resident because of the time I spent getting to know my community. Please come out, meet the candidates, and have a hamburger on October 30th on 409 Wall Tower. Thank you, and I look forward to celebrating change with your vote.
It was my intention to cut it off at final statements, but was there anything in that that you feel like you need to address?
Not that we have time for.
All right. Well, we will end it there. I again appreciate you voters paying attention. Obviously, this is a very important race. Get out and vote. And as Andy said, go vote early. Thank you very much.
Right. I'd also like to ask the voters to do something unusual, which is vote early and vote twice. The voters in Rincon actually have two separate elections to handle. One, of course, is the municipal election for mayor and city council. And I want to thank both candidates today for making time and engaging in an in-depth discussion. And thanks to Mark Lastinger, editor of the Effingham Herald, for moderating. But I hope you'll vote in your municipal election and also vote in the county election on the two ballot questions that are very important to the county. One is a renewal for 6 years of the current SPLOST, a very important funding mechanism for the county and the cities, and vote yes on behalf of the exemption for e-commerce inventory, which would eliminate a competitive disadvantage that Effingham County currently suffers from. So vote early because it'll be a lot easier than waiting until November 2nd. But we hope you definitely vote and vote your conscience and vote for the candidates that you believe will be best. Thank you to all who are watching, and we hope, again, have a great night and vote on November 2nd. Thank you.